We killing each other because we killing ourselves. We not, when another man, I know, I've been in a position, it's out of our control. It's not like he wants to kill. He just doesn't want to die.
But I wish that my son was here.
You can see bullet holes scattered all across that vehicle. This newly released evidence showing never-before-seen details in a case that's cracked wide open some 27 years later.
Tupac's mystery is finally solved in 2026, and what investigators uncovered has left the entire world absolutely speechless. For nearly 30 years, fans believed they knew the story, that Tupac got caught in gang crossfire, that his ashes were scattered in the Pacific Ocean, that the case would remain forever unsolved because witnesses refused to talk and evidence disappeared into the Las Vegas desert.
I mean, it's super significant. Nobody wants to hear we don't have the answers, okay? Not the family, not the friends, and not the fans. This is one of the biggest tragedies in hip-hop history, and I feel like the only thing that has been consistent is the amount of documentaries that we have gotten.
But everything we thought we knew just got flipped upside down when a journalist researching Afeni Shakur's past stumbled across something in rural North Carolina that wasn't supposed to exist. A secret grave with Tupac's name carved into stone, sitting in plain sight on property his mother bought in 2000 and never told a soul about.
And he told me, he remembered this vividly. He said, get to the car, and Tupac the door opens, and Tupac has been shot, and he kind of slumps out of the car, and the cop walks up to him, and he goes, are you okay? Are you okay? And he said, and he swore, Tupac looks at him and says, F you. And that was his last words.
Jeff Pearlman wasn't looking for the discovery that would shake hip-hop to its core. He was a sports writer researching a biography about Tupac, traveling to Lumberton, North Carolina to dig into Afeni Shakur's background and talk to family members who knew her before fame changed everything. The 56-acre property sat behind tall iron gates, overgrown and abandoned since Afeni's death in 2016. And when Dante Powers, Afeni's cousin who'd been watching over the empty land, showed Pearlman around the house filled with dusty boxes and frozen memories, he casually mentioned something that stopped Pearlman cold. You know Tupac's buried here, right? The question hung in the air like smoke, impossible and yet undeniable.
You know, the amount of new reports that kind of lead to nothing and the conspiracy theories and more confusion. So the fact that, this is happening hopefully leads us to believe that we will get some more information.
But what Pearlman found in that front yard would destroy every conspiracy theory fans had been clinging to for 3 decades. A simple stone marker sat among the wild grass. Tupac Amaru Shakur carved clearly into the rock, placed deliberately in a spot where no cameras could reach and no pilgrims would ever think to look. For 29 years, fans theorized about Tupac hiding in Cuba, living under witness protection, faking his death to escape the industry, and the entire time part of him was resting in this quiet southern yard that nobody outside the family knew existed. Afeni never announced the grave, never allowed tours or media access, never turned her son's final resting place into the circus she'd watched happen to Elvis Presley and Jim Morrison. She chose Lumberton specifically because it was remote, private, and far from the chaos that had consumed Tupac's life.
I was here on the draft when we talked about, Tupac being finally honored on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And we say finally, even though, it's been almost 30 years since his passing, but we forget that his career only lasted about 5 years.
The truth about his ashes finally made sense once the grave was discovered. Some were scattered in Los Angeles where Tupac first made his mark. Some touched the Pacific Ocean like the official story claimed. Some went to South Africa as part of Afeni's connection to the continent. The outlaws really did smoke some of his ashes, exactly like Tupac had joked about in his lyrics. Every wild story had a piece of truth, but the final resting place, the one nobody saw coming, was hidden on this rural property where Afeni could visit privately without the world watching. The grave's discovery didn't just answer where Tupac was buried, it confirmed he actually died on September 13th, 1996, destroying the foundation of every conspiracy theory built on the idea that he'd escaped.
I can tell right away he's in bad shape. He's bleeding out of his mouth and nose. He's got multiple torso hits. There's a lot of blood. There's so much blood, I can't even tell exactly where he's hit because there's just, he's bleeding so badly.
And that revelation set off a chain reaction that would expose secrets Afeni had been protecting since the moment her son took his last breath. Pearlman's investigation didn't stop at finding the grave. He spent 3 years tracking down 700 people who knew Tupac at different stages of his life. from childhood friends in Baltimore to death row associates who witnessed his final days. What emerged from those interviews was a completely different picture than the thug life legend the world had been sold. Teachers described a boy who performed in school plays like he was on Broadway, so talented that everyone knew he was destined for greatness. Co-stars from Juice and Poetic Justice talked about watching him transform from gentle and thoughtful to explosive and paranoid as the pressure mounted. Former Black Panthers who knew Afeni explained how Tupac grew up carrying the weight of revolutionary expectations, told from childhood that he had to be strong even when he felt weak.
Because he had already flatlined a couple of times. And she didn't want him to keep going through that.
The most revealing insights came from Tupac's high school girlfriend, who gave Perlman over 100 letters Tupac had written to her, raw and honest expressions of loneliness, fear, and desperate need for love that he never showed publicly. These letters revealed someone profoundly insecure, chasing validation like oxygen, devastated by every rejection and clinging to anyone who showed him attention. Perlman discovered the real woman who inspired Brenda's Got a Baby, tracked down details about the accidental shooting of 6-year-old Keefe Walker Teal that haunted Tupac for years, and learned that the BMW he was riding in when he got shot wasn't even his. It was leased from Suge Knight, another symbol of how trapped and powerless Tupac really was beneath the confident image.
And the way she was explaining to us, he's okay, he's gonna be okay. And I think everybody thought he was gonna pull through.
But the most explosive discovery came when Perlman started digging into what happened to Tupac's estate after Afeni died. And the family war that erupted exposed corruption nobody saw coming. When Afeni Shakur passed away in 2016, she left the estate in the hands of Tom Whalley, a music industry veteran she trusted to protect Tupac's legacy the way she had for 20 years. Initially, everything seemed fine, but Zakiwa Shakur, Afeni's daughter and Tupac's half-sister, started noticing financial irregularities that didn't add up. By 2022, her concerns had grown serious enough to file a lawsuit against the entire estate, alleging that Whalley had paid himself over $5.5 million in excessive compensation while hiding Tupac's personal belongings like cars, jewelry, gold records, and clothing that were supposed to stay in the family. Items that held deep sentimental value were being displayed in the Wake Me When I'm Free exhibit without permission, turning Tupac's memory into a commercial product. Whalley denied everything, claiming he dramatically increased the estate's value and was following exactly what Afeni had authorized in the trust documents. But when the court ordered a full accounting in June 2022, Sekiwa argued that the financial reports raised more questions than they answered, with vague expense categories and missing documentation that suggested something was being hidden. She demanded an independent audit to reveal the full truth about how the estate had been managed since her mother's death. And the battle became about more than just money. It became about who controlled Tupac's narrative, and therefore who controlled what truths about his life and death would ever see daylight.
New video shows Tupac Shakur and Marion Suge Knight leaving the MGM Grand after a fight involving a rival gang. The video, part of evidence shown to a Las Vegas grand jury, leading the panel to indict Dwayne Keefe D. Davis in Shakur's murder.
And that's when the family made a move that signaled they were preparing to blow the entire case wide open in ways that would implicate people at the highest levels of the industry. In 2024, the Shakur family quietly hired Alex Spiro, one of the most feared and connected attorneys in the country, to conduct a private investigation into claims that had been swirling for years about who really ordered Tupac's murder. The focus wasn't just on Keefe D and the Southside Crips anymore. It was on the allegations Keefe had been making since 2008 about Sean Diddy Combs offering a $1 million bounty for Tupac's death. Las Vegas police had publicly stated Diddy was never a suspect, but the family wasn't satisfied with that answer, and bringing in Spiro suggested they had access to information or witnesses that hadn't been made public yet. Nothing has been officially announced, but the fact that Spiro got involved at all means the family believes there's a case to be made against someone powerful enough to have avoided scrutiny for 30 years. Meanwhile, the criminal case against Keefe D was finally moving forward after decades of stagnation. On September 29, 2023, a SWAT team arrested the 60-year-old during an early morning walk, charging him with murder for his role in Tupac's death. The shocking part wasn't new evidence. It was that Keefe D had been confessing publicly for over a decade in FBI interviews, LAPD meetings, YouTube videos, podcasts, club appearances, and a 2019 memoir where he detailed being in the white Cadillac and orchestrating the retaliation for the MGM Grand beating. He'd talked so much, said so many incriminating things, that prosecutors built their entire case around his own words.
It took 27 years for an arrest to be made.
There's only been one person ever arrested and charged in connection to the rapper's death, and that man was supposed to head to trial next month.
But once he got arrested, Keefe D immediately started backtracking, claiming the book was fiction, the interviews were entertainment, and he wasn't even in Las Vegas that night. He argued that his immunity agreement from 2008 protected everything he'd ever said, and suddenly produced 20 to 30 witnesses who he claimed could prove he was thousands of miles away when the shooting happened. The complete reversal left everyone watching the case confused about what was true and what was performance, but prosecutors weren't backing down. They argued Keefe violated the immunity deal the moment he went public with his confessions, and they were using modern forensic technology to reconstruct the Cadillac's movements and match his various stories to physical evidence in ways that weren't possible in 1996. Then Suge Knight dropped a bomb from his prison cell that complicated everything and suggested the person charged might not even be the right suspect. Suge gave interviews claiming that Orlando Anderson, the Compton Crip everyone assumed was the shooter, wasn't actually the one who pulled the trigger that night. He said he knew exactly who shot Tupac but refused to name them, citing street code and his own safety. The statement threw the entire prosecution narrative into chaos because if Suge, the only surviving eyewitness to the actual shooting, was saying they had the wrong guy, then what was the truth? Some people dismissed it as Suge playing games from behind bars, but others wondered if he was protecting someone more dangerous than a dead gang member, someone still alive and powerful enough to reach him even in prison.
The evidence is now being presented to a Las Vegas grand jury.
So this is the biggest development in the Tupac murder case since this all happened, since the murder happened.
The Keefe D trial was scheduled for February 2026, and depending on the outcome, it would either finally close the book on Tupac's murder or blow it open even wider. If Keefe gets convicted, the official story becomes that Southside Crips killed Tupac in retaliation for the MGM Grand beating, street justice carried out by gang members defending their honor. But if he gets acquitted, or if evidence emerges during trial that implicates other people higher up the chain, the entire case could shift toward the industry conspiracy theories that fans and investigators have been chasing for 3 decades. And that's exactly what makes 2026 the year everything changes. Because for the first time, all the pieces are finally coming together in ways that can't be ignored. The secret grave in North Carolina proves Tupac really died and destroys the escape theories. Perlman's 3-year investigation exposes the real person behind the legend and reveals how trapped and exploited he was. The estate war shows that even after death, people were profiting off Tupac's name while hiding the truth from his family. The Keefe D trial forces the criminal case into public view with testimony and evidence that's been buried for decades. And the Shakur family's private investigation with Alex Spiro suggests they're preparing to pursue justice beyond what the Las Vegas prosecution is willing to touch.
Now, investigators say the 4 men that were in the car where the bullets came from were Orlando Anderson, Keefe D, Terrence Brown, and DeAndre Smith.
What's becoming clear is that Tupac's death wasn't just random gang violence that happened because he made a stupid decision to beat up Orlando Anderson. It was the result of a complicated web involving Death Row Records' criminal operations, East Coast, West Coast industry rivalry, Suge Knight's need to control his most valuable asset, and Tupac's attempts to escape a situation that was destroying him. The evidence suggests Tupac knew he was in danger, that he'd been trying to leave Death Row and expose their illegal activities, and that the MGM Grand incident was either an impulsive mistake or deliberate provocation designed to give street credibility to his murder. The 2026 trial will force witnesses to testify under oath about things they've avoided discussing for 30 years. It will put Keefe D's multiple confessions under legal scrutiny and require him to either stick to his story or admit he's been lying for attention and profit. It will create opportunities for new evidence to surface, for people who've been silent to finally speak, and for connections to be made between the street-level shooters and the industry executives who may have ordered or financed the hit. Whether that actually happens depends on how aggressively prosecutors pursue the case and whether they're willing to follow evidence wherever it leads, even if it implicates powerful people who've so far avoided consequences.
None of the others can testify what happened because Keefe D is the only one still alive. So Keefe D's attorney is saying someone else may have orchestrated the shooting, and with these new developments, there may need to be a delay in the trial.
So after 30 years of conspiracy theories, false leads, and deliberate cover-ups, why is 2026 finally the year Tupac's mystery gets solved? Because all the people who had reasons to stay quiet are either dead, in prison, or facing their own legal problems that make cooperation more attractive than silence. Because technology has advanced to the point where investigators can reconstruct crime scenes, analyze ballistics, and verify timelines in ways that weren't possible in 1996. Because the Shakur family has resources and determination to pursue private investigations beyond what overworked police departments were willing to do. And because the culture has shifted enough that people are finally ready to hear the truth about how the music industry exploited and destroyed one of its greatest talents. The mystery isn't just about who pulled the trigger in that white Cadillac. It's about why Tupac was in that BMW in the first place, why he felt compelled to prove his loyalty through violence, why he stayed trapped in a death row contract that was killing him, and why nobody with the power to help him actually did. The answers to those questions reveal an industry built on exploitation, a justice system that failed to protect him while he was alive and failed to deliver justice after he died, and a culture that turned a brilliant artist into a product and then acted surprised when the pressures destroyed him.
What they're hoping to show is circumstantial evidence. When we have a cold case that's this old, there's highly unlikely that you're going to find direct evidence. So what you're looking at is circumstantial evidence that can link an accomplice or others that were involved in the murders.
Tupac Shakur died on September 13th, 1996 at 25 years old. And for 3 decades, the world has been arguing about what really happened. In 2026, we're finally getting answers, not because investigators suddenly got better at their jobs, but because time ran out for the people who benefited from keeping the truth buried. The secret grave, the estate corruption, the trial testimony, the family investigation, all of it is converging to create a complete picture that's more complicated and more tragic than any conspiracy theory could capture. And when the dust settles, the world will finally understand that Tupac's greatest mystery wasn't whether he survived. It was why nobody saved him when he was desperately trying to save himself.